Mick Hunt, host of Mick Unplugged, which was recently ranked as the #1 show in self-improvement. Welcome to the Fieldswell Podcast.
Lauren, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. I've really been looking forward to our conversation. I said it's inspiring to hear from thought leaders who challenge conventional wisdom and push us to think differently about success and purpose. So it's an honor to have you.
I'm honored to be here. Honored to be here.
And for our listeners, it's time to focus in on what Mick is about to share with us. Many of us, Mick, are familiar with Simon Sinek, and he talks about finding your why. You believe in moving beyond our why and embracing our because. Can you break down the difference between the two and maybe why shifting to our because is so important for personal growth?
Yeah, and I talk about this a lot, and Simon, great friend, great leader in general. And he's right that you need to start with your why, right? You need to start with your understanding and knowing who you are, maybe why you do the things that you do. And I like to take that deeper and then say, once you know your why, now you really need to understand your because, right? When you know why you do things, well, what's the real reason? What's the root behind it? What's your purpose? And so for me, identifying your because is what you hold yourself accountable to every day. It's what should drive you literally every day. And for me, it started with a 10-year-old kid making a promise to my mom and to my sister. And then as I got older, making promises to my kids and to my spouse and then my inner circle, the promise. So for me, my because is always a promise to keep. And so if I always keep that in front of me, if I always am driven by the promise that I have to keep for others, that's what propels me to move forward in every decision that I make, every business venture that I'm involved in, and every interaction that I have with humans. I keep my because in front of me. And I think all of us have a because.
Yeah. So talk to us about, originally developing your why and then perhaps how you move from your why into your because.
Yeah. So my initial why was probably what a lot of our whys are, right? Like my initial why was my mom and my sister, and I wanted to make sure that I could change the environment and circumstance that we were in. And a lot of people, when I say it just like that, they think, of poverty or something like that. It wasn't poverty. We were just in a situation where, my sister and I saw my mom physically, verbally, emotionally abused like on a daily basis. And I didn't want that to be normal. And so my why was to change the environment. My because was the promise to actually make that happen. Right. So I like to say, we do a lot of talk even today around mindset.
Yes.
Awesome. But you got to have action to do anything. You can think all the thoughts you want in your brain, right?
Yeah.
You can visualize everything that's going to happen, but until you actually put action behind it, you create the behaviors and the habits, nothing changes. So for me, the shift from why to because was great. I said I wanted to do it. My why. My because is me saying I'm actually going to do it, and here are the steps that I'm going to take.
Yeah, the action is so important. I like to pick a word to live by for each year. And my word for 2024 was action. And my word for 2025 is discipline. So kind of like refining that action and sticking with, the plan and moving forward.
Yeah, I love that.
So I've heard you say, if you can see it, you can be it. What steps can our listeners take to truly begin to turn their vision into reality?
The first thing, and it's probably for a lot of guys, when I talk to guys about it, it's the hardest thing, is to write it down, right? Is to say, this is where I'm going, and then write that down, right? Again, if it stays up here, male, female, young, old, whatever, then it just stays there. So the first thing is to write it down. So once you have written it down, then break it into chunks, right? So I like to say reverse engineering. So if my big dream, if my big vision for 2025 is to make $20 million, great. $20 million is the end result. I know that I need to make 15 to get to 20. In order to get to 15, I need 10. And in order to get to 10, I need 5. And if 5 is the lowest common denominator, then what do I need to do to get to $5 million, right? And so again, it could be weight loss, right? If we want to lose 20 pounds, in order to lose 20, I know I need to lose 15. And in order to lose 15, I need 10 and 5. What are the things I need to do to lose 5 pounds. And
Mm.
that becomes the habits that we create. So again, I start big picture, I reverse engineer it down to the lowest common thing that I know I can do.
Yeah.
And then what are the actions that I need to take? You know, Lauren's word. What's the discipline I need to have? What are the habits I need to build? And then I literally write those down and then put the action steps to those actionable items.
Yeah, amazing. So often we see this big mountain ahead of us. We have these large goals and it just can feel so overwhelming. You
Right.
don't have to know exactly how to get from A to Z. Just take that first step to get from A to B. You're going to feel the momentum,
Right.
the resources, the people, are going to start showing up once you start taking action.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. And then once you get to whatever that milestone is, right? Again, I reverse engineer it and I call those milestones. Celebrate the win of those milestones.
Yes.
Right. So again, if you're trying to go from wherever you are to $20 million, then celebrate getting to 5. Right. Like
Mm-hmm.
reward yourself. If
Yeah.
you're trying to lose weight, whatever it is, like reward yourself on those milestones so that you can celebrate it and feel accomplished. Because if you don't have that self pride, that self love, that self
Mhm.
appreciation, you're going to burn yourself out. So give
Yeah.
yourself the milestones and celebrate.
Yeah. Celebrate the little wins. There's so much, to do with gratitude and just being
Right.
grateful for how far you've come today. And it's true, Mick. There's a statistic. I think it's something around you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals just by writing them down.
Amen.
Mhm.
Amen.
So let's talk about the importance of sharing our dreams with others who can maybe help hold us accountable. How do you see that playing in?
No, I definitely believe in it. I'm going to take it a step further. Share it with the right people, right?
Mm.
Like, you know, one of my things, and I get it from my grandfather, is he taught me to move in silence, right? So I don't share every vision that I have with everyone
Mhm.
because when everyone knows what you have nothing. And when everyone knows where you're going, you'll never get there.
Wow.
So you definitely want to have uh, the ability to share your vision, to share your goals,
Mhm.
but share them with the right people. Share them with the people that are going to push you. Share them with the people that are in your
Yeah.
tightest of circles, because when you start broadcasting outside of that, everything becomes a distraction. So,
Yeah.
yes, share. It's important to share, but be very selective about who you share with.
Yeah. And no one can see the vision like you can.
Right. Right.
And visualization is so important too. Talk to us about how, when you have a goal, you write it down, you share it with the right people. How do you hold that like vision for it? And what does that process look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a mind map. I'm very visual in what I do, right? Like
Mhm.
I have vibe boards and whiteboards over there, and like I'm constantly like journey mapping everything that I
Yeah.
do. But for me, I mean, you almost said it earlier, Lauren. You can't go from A to Z. You always have to go from A to B, no matter how
Mhm.
fast or slow it is. Seeing those points, and so for me, being able to visually see, again, even if I'm just writing down and pinpointing
Mhm.
what's the next step, what's the next action,
Mm.
why is this step important, which is I think is critically important, right? So if you know where you're going, you know the steps you're taking, why are these steps important? Because then that becomes, when we share it with our circle, that becomes the accountability piece. So
Yes.
if I say, hey Lauren, you know, I need to lose 10 pounds because my health really depends on it. And I've got this commitment and I can't go on this next stage looking the way that I look. I really want to look the right way.
Mhm.
Lauren, I need you to hold me accountable to those 10 pounds because it's that important. Right. And so then what I'm writing down is, I told Lauren's going to hold me accountable.
Yes,
I
I
need to
am.
lose 10 pounds by this date. It is
Mhm.
important to do so because I can't go on stage if I don't look the way that I want to look in my mind. Right.
Yeah.
So something that simple is critically important. And
Mhm.
again, it's the accountability piece. If I see it, I can hold myself accountable to it. If I
Mhm.
don't write it down, it's not really that important to me. It's just
Right.
a dream. And
Right.
I don't live in dreams.
And then what step can you take today to start making choices, decisions, and
Right.
creating experiences that will help you get there?
Right.
I was listening to an episode of your show, Mick Unplugged, where you highlighted the difference between having goals and having standards.
Yeah.
For our listeners, what's the difference and what should they focus on?
So I'll answer the latter part first. You should
Okay.
always have standards. Standards are your non-negotiable things, right? Like when you set a standard for yourself, when you have a standard of excellence, That's who you are. A goal is something that you're driven towards, right? So, like, again, my standard is I'm always going to show up for my people. My goal could be to impact 20 people, but my
Mhm.
standard is I'm going to make sure that whoever I'm in front of, I'm impacting. So that's the
Yeah.
difference, right? So my standard is who I am. My
Mhm.
standard is my non-negotiables. My standard
Mhm.
are my must delivers,
Yes.
right? My goals are the personal things that can go around my standards. And so
Mhm.
that's, to me, that's the
Yeah,
biggest.
that's great. The word standards, it's also causing me to think of having boundaries.
Right.
And I think both are so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what do you believe the key is to holding ourselves to a higher standard?
I don't know if there's a key, but
Mm,
I will tell you for me, it is again, what are your core values and what do you want your legacy to be remembered by?
mm,
And
mhm.
so for me, that's what I look for. So the standards that I have for myself, for my team members, and most importantly for those in my circle, it's all about the legacy that I'm trying to be remembered by and that I leave by.
Mhm.
There's this study that 15 days after you pass, people start to remember you less and less and less, right? It's naturally 15 days after you pass, even your closest start to remember you less and less and less, unless you really have a truly defined legacy. And
Mm.
to me, that's what it's about. I love my kids and I want them to be proud of who dad is. I love
Yeah.
my nieces, my nephews, my brother, my sister. Like I want
Mm,
everybody to be proud of who I am because of the legacy that it's leaving for everyone
mhm,
else.
mhm. And what is the legacy that you hope to leave behind for the dreamers? And why do you think it's important that our listeners start to think of the legacy they want to leave behind now? Some people don't even start to think about that until much later on in life.
Because all you leave when you leave the world is a name, right? All of us.
Mhm.
Lauren Fields, when you leave this earth, you're going to leave a name. Your legacy is what that name represents. And so that's why it's really important for you, even for businesses, right? If you're a business, when you leave a company, you have left a name or a brand. What does that name or brand truly represent? And so for me, that's why it's important um, to focus on that because that's
Yeah.
all we can leave the earth with, right?
Yeah.
Like I have my biggest fear is this, Lauren. And I don't care if people are religious or not on the show, but
Mhm.
my biggest fear in life is that when I do get to the other side,
Yeah.
I meet the person I was supposed to be,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And I want that person that I was supposed to be the person that I am today. And so that's who and how I
Yeah.
work towards
Yeah.
everything I do.
To live true to you and follow that call that ignites your spirit.
That's it.
Yeah. So, some of our listeners may feel stuck or they're going through a transformation or, they're facing an obstacle and they feel like it's a total roadblock. How can they maybe shift their mindset to see more, challenges as opportunities?
Yeah. So all of us, I don't care how successful people appear to be,
Mm.
right? The reason that they are who we see them to be is because they kept going. And so if you are at that place where you're stuck, there's two things I want you to do. The first thing is you need to do some self reflection, right? Why is this happening? Sometimes it's external and we can't control it, right? But we need to know why this obstacle, this opportunity, and I love that you said that because I say the same thing. Why did this opportunity present itself? How did it present itself? Right. And then the very next thing that you need to do is say, what do I need to do to overcome this opportunity? Because that is the key. That's the recipe of the success that you want. Every person, all of my mentors, Les Brown, Robert Irvine, Damon John, they can all tell you many times that they were faced with adversity.
Yeah.
And they can tell you every time they chose to do something about it.
Mm.
Right. And so for the listener, for the viewer, that's the thing. You've got to keep
Yeah.
going. Right. And you've got to be able to sometimes it's the small steps right? If you're chipping away at something, it's the small little things that you're breaking apart,
Mhm.
but just keep breaking it apart
Yeah.
because the people that don't are the people that stay stuck.
Yeah. That perseverance and perhaps God, universe, spirit, energy, whatever you believe in, is testing you to see if you're really committed to stay the course.
Right. Absolutely.
You
Totally believe
mentioned
that.
you mentioned Les Brown, and he said something that really stuck with me about mentorship. And
Mm,
it was that you can't read the label when you're inside the box. And this was like,
yeah.
wow, light bulb moment.
Right.
How has mentorship helped you step outside your own limitations to see a bigger vision for yourself?
Mentorship to me is everything. And I have different mentors for the different facets of my life, and they all are wonderful. Here's what, speaking of Les, here's what Les taught me the first time that I ever met him. He said, Mick, we have this theory wrong in life that experience is the best teacher, right? It's been one of the oldest cliches we have.
Mhm.
And he said, well, Mick, if you experience losing, then you've just an experienced loser. How great is that? And I said, it's not great at all, right?
Yeah.
The key to success is wisdom, right? And so what a Les Brown, what a Robert Irvine, what a Damon John do for me is they give me wisdom. They have the answers to the test. And that's what mentorship is about, right?
Mhm.
It's, hey, I've got this question, or I'm going through this thing, right?
Mhm.
Have you experienced it and what did you do? Right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
Damon and I love Damon so much because he literally will say, Mick, I'm going to teach you how not to do something, right? Or I'm going to introduce you to someone who can answer this or assist
Yeah.
you in that. And like, that is one of Damon's greatest gifts is the ability to, a lot of times he has the answer and he can tell me, hey, here's what you need to do, or here's how you need to think through this. But when he doesn't, he knows somebody who can.
Mm.
And he's
Mhm.
like, oh, well, you need to call this person, or hey, let me introduce you to this person. Or he'll pull up his phone if we're on a meeting like this, right? And say, oh, hey, I've got Mick on this other end. I'm going to give you his number and give him, like, I
Yeah.
freaking love that.
Wow.
Les Brown, with all the infinite wisdom that he has of just the power of your
Mhm.
mind and overcoming adversity
Mhm.
and creating opportunities when they don't exist or when you don't see them is freaking
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like a shortcut or a mindset shift, you know what I mean? Or a connection that these mentors can provide. And for our listeners, there are mentors all around you through books, through podcasts, through events. It doesn't always have to be someone you work one on one with, but seek out some mentors to help light the way for you.
All day, every day.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That's the key. I mean, like a Robert Irvine will tell me, Mick, I went up the stairs so you can take the elevator. Like, how freaking powerful is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So incredible. And they want to help you.
Right.
We helping feels good. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Right. And it should be your duty. I mean, it's definitely my duty because I receive such great mentorship and coaching and counseling that I do that for others,
Yeah.
right? Like that becomes again a part of my standard is
Mhm.
to give. And so if I receive information from
Mhm.
Les, like it's my duty to now go help someone else that has that same challenge that I've been able to overcome
Yes.
and show them, hey,
Yes.
I took the stairs. I saw the view. It's not great. Take the elevator. Like, trust me.
100%. It's a mindset shift from why did this happen to me? Instead, how can I learn from what happened and use it to help others?
That's right.
So, Mick, as we begin to wrap up, I'd love to hear about some of the daily rituals or decision making frameworks you follow to continue becoming the best version of you.
Yeah, so I have this saying, the bed has to go, right? The bed, the BED, the beliefs, the excuses, and the decisions. And so I start my day challenging that every day. So, you know, do I have the right belief system, right? And again, I'm not talking spiritual, religious, or whatever, but you know, do I believe in the right things? Do I believe in this initiative? Do I believe in whatever it is that I'm putting my steps behind? Because
Mhm.
if I don't believe in it, I shouldn't do it. So that's the first thing is make sure that whatever you're doing, you truly believe in. Second thing is eliminate the excuses around it because you are going to have challenges. You are going to have obstacles. If everything in life were easy, there'd be a bunch of billionaires and we wouldn't need leadership, right? Because we'd all have it figured out. So again, whatever I believe in, let's not make excuses when challenges come. And then the most important thing is the decision making. So am I making the right decision or the popular decision, right? Every day we're faced with the decision. People say you're faced with choices. No. You're not faced with choices. You're faced with decisions, right? Now, the outcome of a decision could be a choice, but you first have to make the decision. And so I always tell people this: it's not about the choices you make, it's about the decisions that you put yourself in. And so for me, every day, there's always a decision that we have to make. Now, I'm never going to say I get it right all the time, but I try to make sure that when I see the decision, when the decision is in front of me, I'm not afraid to make it. And so that's what I would tell people is put yourself in the position to make decisions and then don't be afraid to make them. You're going to make, and if you do it right, you're going to make the right decision more times than not. Just don't be afraid to make this.
Yeah. And for our listeners, each moment is an opportunity to begin again and really focus in on your belief system, the excuses you've been putting out there, and the decisions you're making.
That's right.
Mick, where can our listeners find you?
So I am Instagram, Mick Unplugged, do a lot of interaction there. LinkedIn, Mick Hunt. I spend most of my personal time on LinkedIn and Instagram. And then Mick Hunt Official is the website. And obviously the podcast, Mick Unplugged.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Lauren.